Welcome back, everyone, and thanks to the fantastic Sarah Wilson and for Lawrence for that great opening. So now we're going into our first case study, and it's a collaboration between Facebook, Publicis Groupe, and EnergX. And I'm delighted to welcome Sean, Sally, and Scott to the stage to talk us through that. So welcome all, and really looking forward to this session. So thanks, guys. I'll leave you to it.
Thanks, Chris. Hi, everyone. My name is Sean Hall, and I'm the CEO of human performance company EnergX. And I'm really excited today to introduce you to two very brave clients, Sally O'Brien and Scott Ramsay. And I say brave because what we're doing today is often when you I guess are hearing about a case study, it's often at the end of that case study and you're hearing all the good stuff that went on. And today we're actually sharing with you a live case study. We're right smack in the middle of it. And so it's brave to be sharing that because I think that right now we're in this situation where none of us have been through a pandemic before. And so we're all learning right now. And therefore, what's been really important in this is our ability to adapt and change based on what we're seeing with the people that we're trying to support right now. And so the way that we're going to share this with you this morning is Scott and Sally are going to talk to you about the Thrive partnership that they already had in existence to support each other. And then I was lucky enough to be involved along with EnergX to really add to that. And then we're going to share with you how the approach that we took in the design of the program, which was really about meeting this challenge of supporting over 400 Publicis Groupe employees in Victoria with the second lockdown happening. And then finally, we're going to come back and just talk to you about what we're going to do next. As I said, we're still midway through the program. It's a 14-week program. We won't complete it till the end of October. And so there's still some adjustments that we're making. We're going to share those with you as well. So that's enough from me to get started. So I'm going to throw it over to Sally from Facebook to introduce herself and just to talk about the relationship with Facebook and Publicis and why this is so important.
Thank you, Sean. Good morning, everyone, and thank you for having me. My name is Sally. I'm an agency partner at Facebook, and I lead the Publicis relationship here in Australia. So, I guess I'm going to, give you a bit of a background around some of the culture and some of the philosophies and the values within Facebook. So, at Facebook, the leaders of our business, from Mark to Cheryl, all the way down to our global VPs from our global business org, Carolyn Everson, they have built a culture that supports its people. And, the core aim of this culture that they have built is really around making sure that we prevent burnout, that they give their people the space, the environment, the working conditions to be creative, to operate at their full capacity, and this really means both inside and also outside the office. And we really feel that they absolutely believe in a live well, think well, do well model. Now, one of the challenges that we have around our business is that there are 50,000 employees globally. So, shipping something like a culture like this and sustaining that culture at a global level at that scale is really, really challenging. So, our most senior leaders in our business, from the US down to the local market, down to a team culture, really fosters this environment and this philosophy. And for that, it means we call that program Fuel. It's a program called Fuel. It's a way of thinking. It's a way of working. It's a way of living. And it's designed to drive high performance and sustainability of its people at Facebook, but also in the world. And that's something that, in practical terms for us, in terms of what that means, Fuel is a series of tools, events, programs, workshops, very, very similar to what we created in the Thrive program. And it's designed to help you identify, understand, recognize behaviors, skills, or actions that you need to consistently take in your life to fuel, sustain your energy, and turn up every single day in your most conditioned self. And I think the thing about this is it's a very, very normal to walk through our offices and hear people say things like, I'm going on a vision writing course as part of my fuel. I'm leaving at the office at 3:30 twice a week to pick up the kids because that's what energizes me, and I've written that in my vision and that's a part of my fuel. Or I started tennis lessons this quarter as a refueling workout. That culture and that philosophy is a globally adopted culture and philosophy, and it's something that is extremely transparent in our conversations with our managers. So, for us to give back to the world and for myself to complete that fuel vision, it was programs like Thrive needed to exist. We needed to also help our partners think about how to stop burnout, how to drive sustainability and energy amongst their talent, and how to turn up in their most conditioned self every single day. I guess if we bring it back to the local shores here, within our industry, 54% of our industry are stressed and struggling right now. So there is a huge mental health issue that we knew already existed amongst our industry. So there was a problem that needed to be solved. So where the natural intersection occurred and why this program works in this partnership between Facebook and Publicis is because Publicis, they already had a mental health and wellbeing pillar in place for their people. So there was a suitability of this program across both our missions that existed, which allowed a global partnership plan that purely focused on a people, with the end goal being to lift our industry and combat some of the mental health and wellbeing issues we're seeing in Australia. So it's also worth noting that, the first conversation I had with Scott around Thrive was around designing a moment. It was pre-COVID. It was going to be a 3-hour event. It was going to be in person. It was going to be at their office. So I guess when COVID hit, Scott and I, we continued a discussion around, how are their people feeling? And we soon realized that COVID had only accelerated some of the mental health issues that we're seeing in the industry. And we had some new issues on our hand. People were feeling isolated. They were cut off from their previous lives. They were bogged down on the virtual world. Communication wasn't as clear and transparent as before. So we knew burnout and fatigue was only going to start to rise. I think about when this came up and how I knew that we needed to kind of continue a program like Thrive in this new COVID world. I went to Sean as a choice partner and looked at EnergX as a business, because EnergX really, I guess, in terms of its philosophy, it connects and integrates with our fuel philosophy very, very well. It's about leveraging your best strengths, or what Sean calls superpowers. He has built a business around, sustaining energy and resilience in unknown charted times. But he also understands the need for individuals to develop a career path and live well. So that was a really, really important point when I was looking for a partner to bring on board and help us go through Thrive together. And look, my last point before I do hand it over to Scott as well is that Publicis had a global philosophy and they had a global mission around leading the change. And as partners to Publicis, we also have a duty to care for their teams and help them deliver that as well. So for their teams to have the capacity to lead the change, they need to be able to actually have the capacity to turn up every day and creatively think. So I talk about these natural intersections of sharing values. The partnership between the three of us to solve for burnout, sustain energy, and drive development was really driven and put into the architecture of our Thrive program. And it was all possible because all of our three businesses collectively had a mission in place already to do so. And Scott, I'll hand it over to you because you might want to expand on some of the things around the Liberty values and things like that and how we work together.
Awesome. Thanks, Sally, and thank you, Sean. And thanks for kind of letting Publicis Groupe be the beneficiary of such a program. It's been really awesome to go through, and I'll kind of take you guys through a little bit of context so you can understand how we've implemented this program into our business and the kind of why, in a word not used too much in 2020, it's been quite serendipitous for us with this kind of the way that we put it in. So for context as well, for those of you who don't know Publicis Groupe, which I'm sure is many, we are a global French multinational with a focus on marketing and business transformation. We have some of the world's best ad agencies, Saatchi's and Saatchi's, Leo Binet's might ring a few bells for some ad fans out there. But the one of the things that we've been doing a lot in the last 5 or so years is transformation. It's a tired word for us. But it's one that's actually quite prevalent within our own business. It gets overused in advertising. We're guilty of that. But back in near the end of 2019, we implemented a program called Publicis Liberte, which is all around changing from policy-based work behaviors into behavior-based work behaviors. So essentially giving our staff a lot more autonomy in how, where, and when they wanted to work. And it was all based on 6 behaviors, which I'll rattle off really quickly just so you can understand the context, which is communicate effectively, use tech to your advantage, trust one another, set your own boundaries, we're all different, and the last one, which I'll quickly check for this, is focus on outputs, which is super important. As well. So the reason why these are important is because we're giving our staff so much autonomy. What we also needed to understand is that we actually have 15 plus businesses within Australia and New Zealand as well. And each of those have their own working cultures, their own teams within that have their own cultures. Then obviously you have human beings who have their own way in which they want to work, right? And when you start to give them that autonomy, they start to need to learn to understand how to execute that themselves. And that's what Thrive has really given us a strong ability to kind of understand, is that there's a big element of personal responsibility, right? And when we work in such a creative, such service-based industry like advertising, that can compound and compound and compound. And the stats that Sally was mentioning, that we have some of the worst in Australia when it comes to mental health, right? So come lockdown 1, we were actually super lucky. We had these things, all these liberty processes in place. So everyone came in and everyone kind of adapted really well. That was great. But slowly what we saw to emerge was things that used to be really strong, setting your boundaries and understanding that everyone was different, was starting to really wane in our measurements, right? And this is where the serendipitous part comes in. This is when Sean and Sally came back to us with this new proposition around, well, what does the intersection of creativity, inclusion, productivity, and creativity look like? I think I missed one. And what was really great about that is that that's exactly what the lifeblood of our industry is, right? We have 2 young creatives down in Melbourne who just launched the donation dollar campaign that came from such a small idea, right? And if we're not able to support them in a way that helps them kind of move forward and have less impact when it comes to isolation or mental health, or managing something as simple as your energy, which I think is such a powerful thought within our business, then how can we, no matter how many services we provide, no matter how many initiatives that we run within our office, those fundamental individual things will have a significantly higher impact. So with that, just before I hand it over to Sean, we knew that how do we design a program that measures what matters so that we can make change where it's needed. And I think that's for us what the power of the Thrive program is that it's a data-driven program designed to deliver on all the things that we need as a business. And what works for Publicis Groupe is not going to work for all of you out there in the conference, because all of our industries and businesses are very, very different. But if you're not measuring the right things, you can't make the change where it's needed. Right. And down in Melbourne, which is where I think became really powerful, is that we saw, as we were building this program, an opportunity. Right. Obviously, really frustrating for everybody in Melbourne, really impactful for their mental health and well-being, going into lockdown for a second time. But we saw that, hey, we've got this thing ready to go. Why don't we try it out down in Melbourne? And Sean and Sally were super happy to kind of roll it out really fast. And we were kind of learning as we go as we did it. But we were able to create this program. And now Sean's going to take you through some of the elements of that that was able to really make an impact quite quickly. So, Sean, I don't know if you want to talk about the data side of it.
I will do. Thanks so much for that, Scott. So I think that, when I came back to the first conversation that the 3 of us all had together, I think where we all really connected was this opportunity to come out of this better than we went in. And because, as Scott highlighted and Sally's talked to as well, we knew that there were already an epidemics of mental health issues in the industry. And why that's particularly relevant, I guess, not just for the advertising industry, but for all industries really, is that right now we need to protect creativity. And the pervasive, I guess, environment situation that we're dealing with right now actually creates barriers to people being at their creative best and having the capacity to think divergently, to stay in a positive frame of mind, which we know is so important for creativity as well. And so as Scott said, when we look at creativity and we look at the way in which the industry operates, the right brief is really important, and that starts with having the right data and insights. And so what I want to share with you is we're going to pop up some slides now, and we're just going to share with you how we took our data-led approach to actually design this program. And so EnergX has developed a proprietary assessment tool that looks at holistically at someone's whole life. We call this an energy intelligence assessment, which essentially identifies what's energizing you versus what's depleting you and helps you set new energy goals. And then based on that data, we're able then to design the right program. So we had just over 400 people in Melbourne that we were looking to take care of, and we aggregated those insights, and then we're able then to design the program. So Chris, if you can pop up the slide there that says Thrive Program, that would be great, and I can just talk to that. And so this was really important because also what we wanted to do was be very transparent back to everybody at Publicis around the design of the program, to let them know that that this was designed for them. It wasn't just an off-the-shelf thing, and therefore that was one of our primary methods of driving engagement. Now, I am not sure if these slides are going to pop up. Chris, if you got those for me, or Mike. And so for instance, what we know right now is that we're getting quite an extraordinary amount of engagement. And so we have just over 400 people in Melbourne as part of Publicis Groupe. Almost 300 of those people, so getting over into the 70%, have actually engaged in some way with the program so far. They have on average attended, we've had 4 sessions so far. We do that fortnightly, essentially a workshop that's designed based on that. So what you see on the slide there is you'll see that there were capability gaps that we identified in terms of where people were at versus where they want to be, that you'll see on the slide there all the way down. And then based on those capability gaps, we then looked at the intersection between some of those capability gaps and designed a fortnightly workshop around a certain theme that was designed to be attractive to our audience here as well. Because when you think about it, you know, if you're just talking about general well-being stuff, people sort of know this stuff, but they're not actively engaged. And so we have to apply that way of thinking and go, how do we make this attractive? Why do people want to opt in and create demand for this? Because this is not a mandatory program. And what we've also seen is that in those workshops, they're our workshops, the cadence that we set, we decided right up front that we didn't want to disrupt people anymore. And therefore there was already an existing Wednesday morning town hall meeting that we then took every second one of those, right? So we already knew people were in that cadence. Like, how do we continue to focus on that instead of trying to get people to create more space for that? The second thing that was really important with this was about embedding the learning from those workshops immediately into action, into behavior change. And so there are a couple of different factors that we used in that. So one, we're going to pop up a little video here for you, which is an example of our virtual energy coach, which we call Frankie. If the video doesn't play, just press the little button there on the video. And what Frankie does essentially is helps translate what was the most important thing from that workshop into action immediately. So we get the participants to talk to Frankie. Frankie lives in Microsoft Teams, but is also available on lots of other platforms as well, depending on our other clients. And then Frankie then steps and nudges essentially the participants in the program along their journey to actually embed that learning. And one of the things that we've looked at as well is we looked at things like social incentives. So we had a partnership that we've also established with Oz Harvest. So when people attend any of the workshops, that's a meal to Oz Harvest. Some of the challenges were then associated another incentive around meals as well. And then to support leaders through this whole process, we've also provided leaders with discussion guides as well, so that we're taking some of the weight off the leaders, because they are carrying a lot of weight, a lot of worry. And we thought, how can we take some of that off? And so just by providing some simple discussion guides, which say in your team discussion, talk about this, and in your one-on-one discussion, talk about this. And then finally, the last approach for us when we think about coming out of this better than we went in, was we actually thought about performance, and Sally talked about performance as well. And so we've now worked with and assessed over 7,000 professionals in Australia, and we looked at the top 20% of those and what were their benchmarks in terms of two things. One, in terms of their capacity, how much gas do they have in the tank essentially to be at their best? And then secondly, we looked at using a positive psychology tool, looking at their innovation potential as well. And so our goal in the program, and we'll measure this at the end, is to lift and to shift all of the people that are in this program towards those high performance benchmarks, as well as improve their overall well-being. So that's a snapshot of sort of how it all came together. I'm going to hand back to Sally and Scott now just to talk about what's next. Because as I said, we're still learning on this, and we are still adapting. Like literally every second week, we're looking at the data again and going, what was the engagement, what worked, what didn't, and then we're making little tweaks along the way to continue to drive overall engagement. So back to you and Scott and Sally.
Thanks, guys. Sorry, I'm having a.
You got it, Sally.
You want to go, Scott?
Well, no, I was just seeing if you're okay to go. Feel free.
I know I've got a few tech troubles, but what's new in the COVID world? But I'll jump in.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess there's two things for me that we've learned through this process, and the first one is around, you know, when we went in and we built Thrive for the second stage of lockdown. I guess we really expected that it was something that everyone would be mentally prepared for, and what I've learned on this journey is that everyone is on their own journey, and you cannot build a program and expect everyone to turn up in the same mindset every day or want to be there every week. So we've learned that maybe the method of rolling out at such scale, it isn't the right one. So we're starting to rethink around the program design and think around, you know, do we break it out in size, or do we get smaller groups or smaller forums? So that would be the first one for me. And then the second one for me, I think, is just around leaders and how important having leaders in a program like this to really push forward the culture, the behaviors, and watch, the team look to those people in these times, because we can't. I think the thing that I've learned is that leaders are no longer on a stage talking about, you know, inspiring people and motivating people through a presentation. People now want to see leaders that are empathetic. And a program like Thrive that is designed to show that and lead that way is something that I think moving forward, we will only continue to bring out and go deeper with leaders to make this work. I think they're my two learnings.
I think, because I know we're running short on time, so I think that the one thing that I've probably learned, because I echo both of those things completely, Sally, I think leaders have been such a interesting one for us to work with, because as I said, we've got so many different businesses and so many different leadership styles trying to figure out what works is great. And Sean, even we adapted the program to have one-on-one, not one-on leadership teams things, where Sean sat down with each of the leadership teams. And I think those are really amazing kind of little light bulb moments for us to switch on. But I think the number one thing that I realized as well, and Sean helped me understand this, is that you can't go in there, someone who really wants this program to work and wanted to be the best thing that it could possibly do and wanted to have 100% success rate. That's not the reality of what these things are. So similar to the everyone's on their own journey, how do you make sure that the people who do want to help themselves change, improve, and grow, how do you make sure that they have the best possible experience, and how do you focus on that versus spending a lot of time and a lot of energy trying to get the other people who are kind of, as Sally mentioned, on their own journey back into the program, right? Because that might be energy misspent, right? We talk about energy a lot, and that's and one of Sean's favorite things is energy vampires. That's a bit of an energy vampire for me, right? Is I get drained when I can't help these people get into the program, but really I should be spending it on the people who are kind of really loving it. And just for context as well, the adoption rate of this program compared to our other L&D initiatives is like double, right? Which is really incredible. But previously, I was looking at the 30% who aren't doing it, not the 70% that are, which for L&D in our business is a really incredible stat. So it's been really, really great for us. from that. So that's probably my biggest learning from that side of things. Midway through the study, that is.
Fantastic. Well, I'm just aware of time, everyone. I just want to thank Sally and Scott again, as I said, being really brave just to share where we're at now, and we're continuing to adjust. I think what we've really come together on is really protecting creativity, helping people be at their best, creating a culture where creativity thrives, because when creativity thrives, everything else has to thrive, essentially was what's there, and really building this capacity in people to excel at change, which I think is just going to become core to everybody as just a way of functioning going forwards. If you've got any questions on what we've discussed here today, feel free to shoot us a message. But we thought the best way to finish this out was just to play for you a short testimonial from somebody that's participated in the program. It's less than a minute. Again, it's going to play right now. If you it doesn't play for you, just click the play button. But thank you everyone for having us. See ya.
Thanks very much, all, and fascinating project that's ongoing. So now it's time for a break. We've got about 25 minutes for you to have some meetings, connect with other attendees. So please head to the People tab and have a look through and network, and we'll see you back here shortly. Thanks very much.